Yeah, we're playing with different armor on Dev right now. So we have an S-curve armor system
Yep. So
where instead of going,
we probably talked about this
it goes
last year
and then kind of
as
plateaus and then goes
So
like that.
we have put it back in instead of exponentially climbing into the sky forever.
It tapers out.
It climbs for a period of or a section of levels. So currently it's at about the 75, 80-ish level that it will exponentially climb till.
Okay.
And then it starts to level out and plateau. Doesn't stop climbing, but it is less.
Swazdula, you clem grakatas. How the hell are ya? Well then. Frickin' Warframe is at it again. Jizo's triggered. I'm so triggered. I'm not really triggered. But I got something on my mind that I'm going to put out there right now because I have a very, very strong feeling that this is going to be difficult sometime soon. So, in a Devstream not too long ago, DE announced that they are going to attempt to rework the freaking enemy scaling. Allow me to rephrase that a little bit. They're going to attempt to fix the enemy scaling. Now, for those of you who have no idea what this topic is about or why this is even a big deal or whatever, allow me to just quickly explain. Enemy scaling right now is like this. The longer you go in any kind of an endless mission, the higher the enemy's armor or damage resistances scale up. The curve of that is pretty silly. It starts out fairly flat and then it just ramps up pretty much exponentially. So out of the blue, the enemies will get very difficult very quickly and deal way more damage, right? On paper, the only thing that's really happening is that as time progresses, the enemies' levels increase. Higher enemy levels mean they deal more damage and they take more damage, okay? Which in and of itself isn't exactly a super horrible idea or anything like that. There's nothing really inherently wrong with that. But then we have the mechanics of Warframe's nature that just, Warframe's a horde shooter, and the enemies are fucking idiotic, okay? The enemies are so dumb and predictable, and no matter how high their levels are, you will always be able to cheese the crap out of them, okay? And I'm sorry, but nullifiers ain't enough. So what DE wants to do is they want to reverse the curve of enemies scaling, right? Which is actually kind of funny because I think 2 or so years ago, Reaper Hunter actually made that exact point and had been making that exact point for months or even years before that. Maybe I'll insert a clip if I can find that video again of him saying exactly that right now.
As far as challenge goes, DE needs to do a few things that they've been seemingly too bullheaded to do for the past 4 years. First thing, and the biggest thing, fix the scaling. Yes, finally revisit enemy armor and health pools. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fix, but it's a severely needed one.
So they intend to switch it up and scale enemies differently. So make it to where they will jump up very quickly and then kind of like level out and start to scale or slow down their scaling to higher levels. I even heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true, I wasn't there, I didn't hear it from DE's mouth personally, but I was told as much that there's some rumor going around that they want to cap enemy levels at 80. Now, if that's true, then by God, what are you thinking? What? What? Don't do that. What the fuck? If that's the end of the story and they just want to cap it, then you will not only kill off and piss off every veteran player right now, you will also piss off the people who are almost veterans. Any player who's mediocre, you will fuck over with that, because you can one-shot level 80 enemies with almost anything in the game. You do not need a lot of effort or crazy, silly, insane builds. It's just that easy. So if you want to cap it at 80, then I don't know, you're really going to have to pull a rabbit out of your ass for the rest of the game to make that interesting. That aside, though, like I said, according to my information for now, that's just a rumor to me. I don't know. But if that is the case, screw it. Now, here's my fear about DE potentially touching the enemy scaling. DE is really good at a lot of things. And DE is also really, really horrible at a couple of things. One of those things is understanding what actual challenge means, what difficulty means. DE has had a very, very long track record of hearing us complain about the game being too easy, there's no challenge, there's no nothing, and what DE usually does is they introduce some kind of a new, I don't know, game mode or whatever, that is supposed to be more difficult or catered to veterans. Cough, cough, arbitration. Cough, cough, sanctuary onslaught. Cough, cough, disruption. Cough, all that bullshit. It's supposed to be for veteran players, but it turns out that it's just another game mode like everything else. There's no difference between disruption and survival other than, well, the game mechanics themselves. Beyond that, there's nothing more difficult about it or anything. And DE really, really, really loves to just increase numbers, okay? You have an enemy, the highest enemy level that you used to find in the game right off the bat, of course not for endless missions because they scaled up, right? But right off the bat, the highest enemy level that you would encounter back in the day was between 40 and 50 something, right? Which was Sedna. And then they were like, oh, let's add some new game modes and shit and just have them start at 60 or level 80 or level 100 or whatever. All of that shit, even if you would start off enemies at level 200, that still wouldn't be difficult. They would be a bit more of a pain in the ass, but we do have a large variety of Warframes that can easily bypass that, cheese the shit out of it. Look at these guys that are doing hours and hours and hours of survival missions. They ain't freestyling that shit, they're cheesing it. They're either stuck in a corner with a fucking Zenistar back in the day for hours, right, doing nothing, staying invisible, which isn't skill related or anything, hence there is no difficulty there because all you really have to do is have the mental fortitude to sit in a corner for hours on end, right? Or you'll see that a lot of these group plays have a frost in there. Why do they have a frost in there? Because upon casting the snow globe is invulnerable for up to 4 seconds. So for 4 seconds, the snow globe will take 0 damage. Even if there are trillions of damage coming in, that snow globe is not going to be touched, which is why the frost player will also have to spam the damn globe every 3 seconds or so. The second they let that go, they're dead, right? So these kinds of mechanics, anything like that, you can always do regardless of how high the enemy level is, even if they're level 9,000. That isn't difficulty, and it's not fun either, okay? Here's where I don't understand why DE seems to feel like enemy scaling aside from rewards. That's a whole different ballgame that we can talk about in a different video. But when it comes to enemy scaling and actual difficulty in-game, I don't understand why DE seems to feel like that's rocket science. I don't get it. DE, it's very simple, really. It's very straightforward. What makes an enemy difficult is not their ability to deal and take damage, okay? That too, but not mainly that. And you guys are relying only on that and nothing else. What makes an enemy difficult is how much effort they put in to screwing you over as a player, okay? Look at Dark Souls, for example. No, I'm not implying that Warframe should be like Dark Souls, or that Warframe should have enemies like Dark Souls does, although a battle here and there that is similar might not actually hurt. But, just as an example, Dark Souls, you have to play with strategy. You don't just run in there and shoot arrows or some shit or throw kunais at the enemy and one way or the other you'll win. No, you actually have to use your brain and dodge and make sure you don't get hit, because if you fuck up once or twice, you're dead, right? So that's Dark Souls. A different approach that I would look at that I like to bring up often on my streams is Grand Theft Auto. I feel if Warframe would adopt a similar scaling like Grand Theft Auto does, it would benefit Warframe a whole bunch. Forget all the nonsense with the scaling numbers. In Grand Theft Auto, if you, I don't know, run over somebody or something, you'll have one cop following you, which is going to be pretty lazy. The cop is acting as if he's more concerned with his coffee and donut rather than with pursuing and arresting your ass, right? And it's very, very easy to evade them. If you get on that cop's nerve or you even resist arrest or whatever, then you'll have 2 stars, which means the cops will get a little bit more vicious with you. They will not let loose all that easily and whatnot, and they will start to put in more effort. And you, as a player, have to put in more effort to actually get away from them, but still fairly easy, right? Then you get 3 stars. And with 3 stars, you start to deal with the fucking helicopter and whatnot, and it's a real bitch to get away from them, but you can still pull it off pretty well. If you decide to fight the cops and whatever, they're all going to have about the same difficulty, I want to say, the same bullet sponge-y type. And the higher you scale up, the more different behaviors they have. They start to use speed traps, not speed traps, but the spikes for your tires, right? They start to use 2 helicopters instead of just 1. The SWAT team swarms in on your ass. They try to ram your ass off of the street and then shoot you from the helicopter and whatnot. And so the higher you scale, the smarter they get, the more shit they use to actually stop you. Now imagine something like that with the Grineer in particular, right? It would have to be for all the enemies, but it would make the most sense just in terms of imagining it with the Grineer, because the Grineer are essentially soldiers, right? So what if enemies would scale not to a point where they just increase their stupid numbers, right? And force you to start cheesing in order to progress even further for, again, no fucking reason really, because there's no point in going very, very high because there's no reward there to be had. But aside from, or instead of having them scale their damn numbers, have them get smarter. Have them use smarter tactics to actually stop you dead in your tracks, rather than just keep on spawning and running at you like mindless drones. To me, that's just idiotic. That's okay for low levels if they behave stupidly, but not for higher levels. In higher levels, the Grineer, they should have new units that start spawning more frequently, right? Units that are more annoying, like for example, the Nox is a good example. In the beginning of the game, you will not find any Noxes, and then later on in the game, if you go a little bit longer in an endless mission, Noxes will start to spawn more frequently. If you look at Orokin, for example, Mott Survival, you'll see Ancients start spawning and shit like that. More Nullifiers start spawning. All of that, that's a good concept. That's a good base. But we need to go further. The enemies themselves need to scale their behavior. Instead of running at you like mindless zombies, they should maybe try some more strategies. Like, imagine they would put up a shield and actually use proper cover or shoot through it. Imagine special units would spawn that are trying to do something in the game, ignoring you, like for example, oh, I don't know, getting to a console or whatever and hacking that console for, I don't know, let's say 20 seconds or something, and if they succeed, like let's say a VIP target would take their ass to a console, kind of like in Disruption. If they reach the console, they're guarded by some other enemies and whatnot. And if they reach the console, they have to hack it for like 10 or 20 seconds or whatever. And if they succeed and you cannot stop them, then they will spawn in some kind of a boss that will help or whatever. Like, let's say an enhanced Vor or a Vehek or whatever. And you'll have to deal with that nightmare, right? And so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is, DE really, really needs to move away from adding new game modes, believing that they're going to be hard because they're not, right? And definitely get away from just straight up increasing the fucking numbers, because that is nothing. That does literally nothing at all. Level 40 versus level 80 versus level 800 enemies, they're all the same. The only difference that they have is that they can take more damage and they deal more damage. Beside that, there is zip difference, and that ain't right. And if DE continues to do that, more and more people will experience fatigue. They will feel bored. A problem with the Warframe community is that a lot of people are upset and pissed and frustrated, but don't exactly know why. And this is where a lot of content creators come in who actually deal with their communities, because we can talk it out, you know? I hear a lot of shit, I see a lot of different opinions, I know what's up, I know why people are mad, I know why I'm mad, but that's just me as a person. I can very much reflect very well, right? And if DE continues to do these silly decisions, right? If DE continues to make these silly decisions, then they will never, ever appeal to a broader audience. They will never, ever be able to keep their veterans interested and happy in the game for a prolonged amount of time, which is kind of ironic because here I sit after 5 or 6 years of playing this damn game along with a bunch of other people who have been there since day one. Like I said, happy players. Nobody's happy right now, except maybe some new players that still have a ton of stuff to do and acquire, which again is just stuff. And I'm not going to get into scaling rewards, but I sure shit am going to take a piss on scaling enemies. DE. For the love of God, okay, look at your AI. You cannot rework the enemy scaling and expect to make any kind of significant change to the player experience by simply tweaking the numbers or tweaking the rate at which those numbers increase. You have to consider enemy AI as well. You cannot stay in one track, okay? I will predict right now that you will change the things that you said you would change and then leave it like that for the next few years, and in a few years and from between now and then you'll still have the same complaints that everybody always has because you're not changing the AI. It needs an upgrade. It needs tweaking. For the love of God, you guys have the skill to do it. Why not fucking do it? There are plenty of games that you can look at. I mentioned Grand Theft Auto. Another one that you could look at is Red Dead Redemption Nightmare, or whatever the hell the title was. The zombie mode, where you fight against waves of zombies. In the first, or shit, Call of Duty zombie mode is exactly the same concept. First wave, slow, a couple of slow, very easy to kill zombies. Next wave, more slow, easy to kill zombies. Third wave, more slow but harder to kill zombies, and then they start getting faster and harder to kill, and then there are some that crawl, and there are some that start exploding on your ass, then there are some that'll latch onto you and hold you and whatnot. So the diversity increases, the versatility that the enemies have increases. All of these things increase. All of these things are AI related, intellect related, okay? You need to have the enemies get smarter. They need to get good, essentially. And there are so many options that you guys could implement in the game. There's so much variety there, so much that could be done. And by changing that, you wouldn't only change the difficulty scaling in Warframe, you would also change the entire experience for everyone playing the game forever. Because that scaling, that'll go through the entire game, not just survival or just defense. It'll be on every single mission, even the exterminations. An extermination on Earth, one of the starting planets, will feel so much different than an extermination on Sedna, or the Derelict, for example, or elsewhere, Lua, whatever, right? It'll feel so different because the low-level enemies will not put up much of a fight because they can't help themselves, whereas the high-level enemies will be, well, high-level, actually elitist, actual, like, SWAT teams, specialists, commandos, and whatnot. You know, that is what you guys absolutely need to look at, and as long as you don't do that, I don't care how you tweak the numbers. It's not going to change a goddamn thing, okay? It's a good start. I'm not saying abandon the idea, because enemy scaling right now as it is, as ridiculous as it is, but as it is not okay. It's kind of messed up. So your changes that you proposed are probably going to be pretty decent, okay? But that's just a drop on a hot stone. You need to do more. Much more. Now, for everyone watching, I'm going to go ahead and shut the hell up because I've ranted long enough about this topic. If you guys want me to bring up some more like suggestions, ideas, get more into the nitty-gritty on what enemy scaling could look like, let me know and I might make another video about that with some sort of a list or whatever. And by all means, we don't know. DE or other content creators might watch this video as well and feel compelled to talk about it. So you guys go ahead and drop something in the comment section. Give me your opinion. Let me know what you guys feel. Is there another game where you're like, hey, the enemy scaling in this one is really good? Or, you know, just let me know your opinions. If you want to, you don't have to, of course. But it would help for other potential viewers to kind of get in on the discussion and just have a bit of a list of things that to consider and look at. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this. I just wanted to throw that out there right quick. I'll see you guys in the next video as usual. So stay healthy and safe and peace the fuck out.